Have you ever noticed how kids sometimes seem more interested in the box a toy came in than the toy itself?
Oh, absolutely. It's like they have this inbuilt radar for finding the most creative way to have fun.
Yeah. Like they'll spend hours building a fort out of a cardboard box while the expensive toy car sits there ignored.
That's fascinating, isn't it? And it turns out there's actually a lot more to it than just kids being kids.
Really? So it's not just random play.
Not at all. Researchers have found that play is actually crucial for child development. It's like their brain's way of building essential skills for life.
So it's more than just keeping them entertained. It's actually shaping who they become.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about like social skills or creativity here. We're talking about everything from problem solving and critical thinking to even physical coordination and emotional regulation.
Okay, so how does this all work? What's actually going on in those little brains while they're lost in play?
Well, there are actually six distinct stages of play that children go through, and each one builds upon the last one, contributing to their overall development.
6 stages. Wow, I had no idea. So let's break them down. Where do we even begin? What's that first stage look like?
Well, the very first stage is called unoccupied play, and this happens from birth to around 3 months of age.
Oh, wow, so really little babies.
Yeah. You might see a maybe making seemingly random movements with their arms and legs, or kicking their feet, or even just grasping at
So
objects.
it might not even look like much is happening.
Right. But these movements are actually laying the foundation for their physical development.
So even those tiny little uncoordinated movements have a purpose.
Absolutely. It's like they're creating a mental map of their own body.
I see.
Every wiggle and squirm helps them understand where their limbs are in space and how they can move them.
So they're learning about cause and effect. Like if I kick my leg, this mobile above me will move.
Precisely. And those early experiences are crucial for developing their motor skills and coordination later on.
So parents can actually help support this stage, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just by interacting with their baby and narrating their movements, providing them with stimulating objects to explore.
So instead of just letting them wiggle on their own, we should be saying things like, look, you moved your hand. You touched the rattle.
Exactly. It helps them connect their actions with language and start to make sense of the world around them.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about the next stage? What happens after that?
So around the ages of 0 to 2, we start to see the emergence of what we call solitary play. This is when children become engrossed in their own little world and they're exploring toys and objects independently.
So this is like when they might be stacking blocks or examining a toy car or just babbling to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's all about that really intense focus you see in toddlers when they're completely absorbed in their own little activity.
Exactly. And it's more than just keeping them busy. There was this study in 2019 that actually showed that toddlers' brains exhibit incredibly focused brain activity during solitary play. Similar to like adults in deep concentration, they were using EEG monitoring.
Wow, so they're not just playing, they're engaging in a serious mental workout.
Yeah, they really are. This type of play is crucial for developing their attention span and their problem-solving skills and their ability to learn independently.
This is making me rethink all those times I interrupted my son's play to show him something more interesting. It sounds like those interruptions might have actually been hindering his development.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a common mistake parents make. We want to engage with our children, but sometimes the best thing we can do is give them space to explore and discover on their own.
So hands off those blocks unless absolutely necessary.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third stage of play, which is called onlooker play. And this one typically emerges around age 2. You might see a child really intently watching other children play without actually joining in.
I've definitely seen that before. It's like they're taking mental notes, but are they actually learning anything if they're not participating?
They absolutely are. This is where this fascinating concept of mirror neurons comes in.
Mirror neurons, what are those?
These are neurons in our brains that fire both when we perform an action and when we watch someone else perform that same action.
So just by watching, their brains are simulating the experience as if they were actually playing.
Exactly. They're mentally rehearsing those actions and building the neural pathways they'll need to engage in similar play themselves later on.
That's incredible. And it makes me think about how I learn new things. Like I'm a visual learner. I pick up things much faster by watching someone else do it first.
That's a perfect example of your mirror neurons at work.
Cool.
And parents can actually support this stage by narrating what the child is observing, so helping them connect those visual cues with language.
So like, look, those children are building a tower together. They're using different colored blocks.
Exactly. It just helps make sense of the social dynamics and the actions involved. And this actually brings us to the fourth stage of play, parallel play, which typically emerges between the ages of 2 and 3.
Parallel play, what's that?
This is when children begin playing alongside each other, but not necessarily with each other. They might be using similar toys or engaging in similar activities, but their play remains independent.
So it's like they're in their own little worlds, but those worlds are starting to exist in the same space.
A great way to put it. And it might seem like a small step, but it's actually a crucial bridge between solitary play and more interactive forms of play.
So they're getting comfortable with the presence of other children, but still maintaining their own independence. What's the best way for parents to support this stage?
Well, one key tip is to provide duplicate toys. Research from Yale actually showed that having duplicate toys during playdates significantly reduces conflict and helps children practice those early sharing skills without feeling threatened.
So instead of having one coveted toy truck that everyone wants, have two.
Exactly.
It seems so simple, but it makes a lot of sense. And parents, remember, respect their space. They're not quite ready for like complex sharing or collaborative play just yet.
Exactly. And gentle narration can also be helpful. You're building with the red blocks and Emma is building with the blue blocks.
Got it.
It helps build awareness of others without pushing them into interaction before they're ready.
It's all about respecting their pace and providing the right environment for them to flourish. And speaking of flourishing, I'm eager to learn about the next stages where social interaction really starts to blossom.
We'll get ready because things are about to get a lot more interactive.
I can't wait.
In part 1, we really got to see how those early stages of play, from those first movements to solitary play to just watching others play, how they all lay the foundation for more complex play later on.
It was really amazing to learn about all those things that are going on in their brains, even when it doesn't seem like much is happening. Like those babies just kind of wriggling around. They're actually doing so much.
Right. It's incredible. And now we're moving into the part where social interaction really becomes important.
Okay.
And we start to see that with associative play, which usually happens around ages 3 and 4.
Okay. So what makes associative play different? Like how is it different from parallel play, where they're kind of doing their own thing next to each other?
Yeah. Imagine a group of preschoolers, and they're all gathered around a sand table.
Okay, I can picture that.
And they're digging and pouring and building, and they're all chattering away, maybe even sharing some tools, but they're not necessarily working together towards like a common goal.
Okay, so it's not like they're building a sandcastle together with a shared plan. They're each kind of doing their own thing, but they're interacting with each other while they're doing it.
Exactly. And that's a great way to put it. They're engaged, they're interacting, but there's not really like any set rules or a specific outcome they're trying to achieve.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, organized chaos.
Yes. Organized chaos. That's a perfect way to describe it.
It seems like such a natural way for kids to play at that age, but I'm sure there's still a lot of important development happening during this type of play, right?
Oh, absolutely. Associative play is like a huge boost for language development. There was a study from the University of Cambridge that found that kids who engage in associative play use a much wider range of vocabulary and more complex sentences compared to when they're playing alone.
That makes sense. They're having to explain their ideas and negotiate and try to understand what their friends are thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a constant language workout. And along with that, they're also developing those really important social skills like negotiation, compromise, and understanding different points of view.
So it's setting them up for success in so many areas of life.
Absolutely.
So how can parents support this stage? Is it still about providing those open-ended materials and letting them take the lead?
Yes, definitely. Providing materials that encourage group play is really key. Things like art supplies, building blocks, a sand and water table, or even just dress-up clothes.
And I'm guessing it's still important to resist the urge to intervene even when those inevitable disagreements pop up.
It is. It is. Letting them navigate those little conflicts on their own is so important. That's how they learn to compromise, develop conflict resolution skills, and build resilience.
So it's like they're getting this mini masterclass in diplomacy disguised as playtime.
Exactly.
And what about the next stage? What happens when kids are ready to move beyond this, like, free-flowing associative play?
Well, that brings us to the sixth and final stage of play development, and that's cooperative play.
Okay.
Now we're talking true teamwork, organized play, and a shared sense of purpose.
So this is where we get those elaborate pirate adventures, the intricate block cities, and maybe even some fiercely competitive board games.
Exactly. The kids are working together towards common goals, assigning roles, following rules, and even negotiating strategies. It's really impressive to see.
This sounds like it takes things to a whole new level, like they need a whole new set of skills for this type of play.
Yeah, it does. Cooperative play needs complex problem solving, planning, emotional regulation, and communication skills. And the cool thing is the benefits of this type of play really last. There was this big study from the University of Minnesota, and they found that the quality of a child's cooperative play at age 4 was a better predictor of their academic success at age 10 than even their IQ.
Wow, that's incredible. So those games of pirates or pretend cooking or whatever they're into at 4 is actually laying the foundation for their future success in school.
It really is. It might seem like they're just having fun, but they're actually building these crucial neural networks that will support their learning, focus, and social intelligence down the road. It's all connected.
It's pretty amazing to think about. So how can parents help foster this type of play? Should we be signing our kids up for organized sports teams and clubs to give them those opportunities to collaborate?
Well, organized activities can definitely be beneficial, but I think it's important to remember that the most valuable cooperative play often happens spontaneously. Just give children the time, space, and materials to create their own games and let their imaginations run wild.
So instead of scheduling every minute of their day, we should leave room for unstructured play, where they can decide what they want to play and who they want to play with.
Exactly. And try to avoid the temptation to step in and direct their play or solve their problems for them. Let them struggle a little bit, let them negotiate, and let them experience the joy of figuring things out together.
That hands-off approach can be tough for parents, but it sounds like it's really important for their development.
It is. Trust me, their little brains are working overtime during these play sessions. They're building essential skills that will serve them well throughout their lives.
So we've gone from those early, seemingly random movements of a baby to these really complex social interactions of cooperative play, and we've seen how each stage builds upon the last, setting them up for success in so many areas of life.
We have. And even though we've talked about these 6 distinct stages, I think it's important to keep in mind that play doesn't always fit neatly into those categories. You know, kids might move back and forth between stages depending on their mood or who they're playing with, or even just what's going on around them.
That makes sense. It's not like a straight line, it's more like a dance.
That's a great way to think about it.
But no matter what, it's clear that play is just so powerful.
Absolutely. And there's actually one more crucial aspect of play that we need to talk about, and that is open-ended play.
Ooh, open-ended play. I like the sound of that. Open-ended play, huh? I'm really curious to learn more about that. What exactly does that mean?
Well, think about those times we talked about earlier, the kid completely absorbed in playing with a cardboard box or using a stick as a magic wand. That's what open-ended play is all about.
Okay, so it's about using things in a way that they weren't necessarily intended to be used.
Yeah. It's about those materials and activities that don't have a predetermined purpose or a single right way to use them.
So we're talking about things like building forts out of blankets and pillows, or turning a pile of blocks into a bustling city, or even just a simple drawing turning into a whole epic adventure story.
Exactly. It's about giving children freedom to use their imaginations and create their own worlds and their own rules and their own stories.
It takes me back to my own childhood, building forts out of pillows and blankets and using sticks as swords and turning cardboard boxes into spaceships. I never really thought about it like this before, but I was engaging in open-ended play all the time.
And you were developing so many important skills without even realizing it. That's the beauty of open-ended play. It's not about following instructions or achieving a specific outcome. It's all about the process of exploring and discovering and just the pure joy of creating.
Okay, so why is this type of play so important? What's happening in a child's brain when they're engaged in this kind of free-flowing, imaginative play?
Well, first of all, it really forces them to think creatively. They have to come up with their own ideas, their own rules, and find solutions to problems that come up during their play.
So it's like a workout for their imagination and their problem-solving skills.
Exactly. And there's research to back this up. One study found that kids who engage with open-ended materials show much higher levels of creativity, problem-solving, and critical thinking compared to kids who mostly use toys with a single predefined purpose.
So Those simple toys, like blocks and cardboard boxes and art supplies, are actually building some pretty complex cognitive skills.
They are. And it's not just about cognitive development either. Open-ended play also helps nurture social emotional skills.
Really?
Yeah. When kids engage in pretend play, they have to negotiate roles and communicate their ideas and work together to create a shared story.
That's so true. It's like they're writing, directing, and starring in their own play, all while building these essential life skills like empathy and collaboration and communication.
That's a great way to put it. And let's not forget about the physical benefits, too. Open-ended play often involves movement, whether it's building a fort or running around outside, or just using their bodies to express themselves creatively.
So it's a win-win-win for cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development. And it all happens naturally, just from the child's own curiosity and desire to explore.
That's the amazing thing about it. And that's why it's so important for us as parents and caregivers to remember that we don't need to overstructure their time or tell them exactly how they should play. Sometimes the best thing we can do is just step back, give them the tools and the space, and let their imaginations run wild.
So embrace the mess, encourage the make-believe, and resist the urge to turn every playtime into a structured learning activity.
Exactly. Let them discover the magic of play on their own terms. And it's also important to remember that the benefits of play go way beyond childhood. We can all benefit from being more playful in our own lives.
That's a good point. Like, what kinds of things are you talking about?
Well, it could be anything from trying a new hobby to engaging in creative activities to just finding those moments of joy and wonder in everyday life. It's not about being childish. It's about tapping into that innate curiosity and that sense of discovery that we often lose sight of as we get older.
I love that. So by embracing our inner child, we can unlock new levels of creativity, problem solving, and resilience.
Absolutely. And who knows what else we might discover along the way.
That's a really inspiring thought to end on. So the next time you see a child lost in play, remember you're witnessing something truly amazing. You're seeing creativity blossom, problem-solving skills develop, and social-emotional intelligence take shape.
It's a powerful reminder that play is so much more than just a way to pass the time. It's an essential part of what makes us human.
And on that note, we wrap up another deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the fascinating world of play. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and keep that childlike curiosity alive.
See you soon.